In the middle of the 16th century, the shadow of a single, monolithic empire stretched across the globe. The Spanish Habsburgs commanded a dominion where the sun never set, their power enforced by the most terrifying military machine the world had ever seen. Their armies were anchored by the invincible Spanish infantry, massive, unyielding squares of pikemen and musketeers known as tercios. These dense formations had shattered every rival force that dared stand against them, their supremacy treated as an immutable law of geopolitics. Across the continent, to challenge the Spanish crown was considered an act of profound, suicidal madness. Yet, in the damp, waterlogged marshlands of the Low Countries, a seemingly insignificant cluster of merchants, fishermen, and minor nobles was about to defy this global leviathan. The 80 Years' War, sparked in 1568 by religious persecution and suffocating taxation, began as a desperate, chaotic uprising. The Dutch provinces, lacking a centralized government and a professional standing army, faced the wrath of King Philip II of Spain. The resulting clash would not merely redraw the map of Europe, it would violently tear down the medieval traditions of combat, forging the brutal, disciplined mechanics of modern warfare in the fires of a decades-long struggle for survival. The early years of the Dutch Revolt were defined by catastrophic failures and brutal repression. Passionate but disorganized Dutch militias and hired mercenaries repeatedly hurled themselves against the disciplined Spanish tercios, only to be slaughtered in open combat. The Spanish response was merciless, characterized by vicious sieges and the sacking of rebellious cities to terrorize the populace into submission. The Duke of Alba, commanding the Spanish forces, instituted a reign of terror that left the Dutch provinces bleeding and fractured. The harsh reality of these early defeats forced a profound reckoning among the rebel leadership. It became agonizingly clear that courage and religious fervor were entirely insufficient against a professional imperial army. If the rebellion was to survive, the very nature of how the Dutch fought had to be dismantled and rebuilt from the ground up. The traditional reliance on unwieldy mercenary bands and feudal levies was a recipe for extinction. This existential crisis paved the way for one of history's most consequential military minds, Maurice of Nassau. Assuming leadership of the Dutch armed forces in the late 1580s, Maurice was not merely a battlefield commander, but a meticulous scholar. By investigating the ruins of Roman antiquity and studying the classical texts of military tacticians, he sought a mathematical, systematic approach to human conflict. Maurice realized